What if the reason you didn't get that job offer? What if the reason you were passed over for that role you knew you were perfect for had nothing to do with your skills, your experience, or even your personality? Imagine a scenario where an invisible barrier, an unseen force, is at play, determining your fate without you even realizing it. What if that reason, that invisible barrier, had absolutely nothing to do with your skills, your experience, or even your personality? What if it was something entirely out of your control, something you couldn't even see or understand? Imagine a gatekeeper you never see, a judge you never meet, making decisions that alter the course of your professional life. This gatekeeper operates in the shadows, unseen and unaccountable, yet its decisions have a profound impact on your career. This is not a distant dystopian future I speak of. This is the present, a reality that many are beginning to navigate, often without even realizing the full extent of the forces at play. It's a disquieting thought, one that can make you question the very foundations of merit and effort in the modern workplace. It makes you wonder if all your hard work, all your dedication is truly recognized, or if it's all for naught. I want to share something personal today, a story that isn't unique to me, but feels deeply individual when you're living it. It's a story of struggle, of perseverance, and ultimately of self-discovery. Last year, life threw a curveball, and I had to leave a job I was dedicated to. It was a job that I loved, a job where I felt I was making a difference. But personal circumstances demanded my full attention, and I had to make the difficult decision to step away. I anticipated a period of transition, of course. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was prepared to face the challenges head on. I braced myself for the familiar challenges of job hunting. I updated my resume, polished my cover letters, and began the process of applying for jobs. I was optimistic, confident in my abilities and my track record. What I didn't anticipate was the profound sense of hitting an invisible, unyielding wall, a barrier that seemed to grow taller with every application I submitted, every effort I made. It was as if my qualifications, my experience, my passion, all counted for nothing. The search for a new position began with a sense of cautious optimism, a belief in my abilities and my track record. I had experience, I had a network, I had a genuine desire to contribute meaningfully. But as weeks turned into months, that initial optimism began to erode, replaced by a gnawing uncertainty. 3 long months passed, each day punctuated by the refresh button on my email, the meticulous crafting of cover letters, the tailoring of my resume to fit job descriptions that sometimes felt like moving targets. The silence from potential employers was often louder than any rejection. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, adrift in a sea of applications, an offer materialized. It was a position, a way back into the workforce, and for that, I was undeniably grateful. It felt like a lifeline, a beacon of hope in a sea of uncertainty. However, the role itself was a stark departure from my previous responsibilities. It was entry level. The tasks were repetitive, almost mechanical. There was little room for critical thinking, for innovation. It felt like my career trajectory had not just stalled, but had been forcibly rerouted down a narrow, uninspiring dead-end street. I found myself questioning everything, wondering if I would ever find my way back to a role that truly fulfilled me. But in the midst of this struggle, I discovered something important. I discovered resilience, the ability to keep going even when the path is unclear. I discovered the importance of self-belief, of holding on to the conviction that I have something valuable to offer, even when the world seems to say otherwise. And most importantly, I discovered that sometimes the most challenging journeys lead to the most profound growth. The job hunt itself transformed into a bewildering maze. Each turn, each new application seemed to lead not to an exit, but to another corridor of silence, or worse, a polite but impersonal automated rejection. I wasn't a newcomer to my field, especially not to healthcare. I had a history there, a past filled with tangible achievements. I'd immersed myself in research. I'd worked with collaboration and worked on projects to successful completion. I had juggled deadlines and resources with a practiced hand. My experience spanned across departments, building bridges and fostering understanding. I'd been bedside and back office. Yet, despite this background, none of the roles I applied for, the positions that seemed like a natural fit for my skills and aspirations, even acknowledged my existence with a response beyond the automated. Rejection emails became a common, almost daily occurrence. They would land in my inbox, sterile and formulaic, offering no feedback, no insight, just a closed door. And then there was the silence, a void that left me wondering if my applications were even seen by human eyes, if they had simply vanished into some digital abyss, unseen and unconsidered by anyone. The few interviews I did manage to secure were almost invariably with companies I had applied to out of a growing sense of desperation. These weren't the roles that excited me, not the organizations where I felt my skills could truly flourish. They were lifelines, perhaps, but not pathways to fulfillment. I'm certain the interviewers could sense my lack of genuine enthusiasm. How could they not? My body language probably screamed, I don't truly want to be here, but I need a job. This, of course, created a vicious cycle where my own discouragement likely sabotaged any slim chances I might have had. It was a deeply frustrating experience, this disconnect between my perceived value and the market's apparent indifference. Every unanswered email, every form rejection chipped away at my confidence. I began to question my own abilities, to wonder if I had somehow misjudged my own career path, my own worth in the professional landscape. The healthcare sector, a field I was passionate about, felt suddenly impenetrable at the levels where I knew I could make a significant contribution. The silence was an echo chamber for my own growing doubts and fears about the future. Over 75% of resumes are now filtered by an ATS, applicant tracking system, before a human ever sees them. This added another layer of complexity to the already daunting job hunt maze. My background wasn't a blank slate. It was filled with the experiences. I had spent years building a career that I believed was not only impressive, but also highly relevant to the roles I was applying for. My resume was a testament to my dedication, showcasing a journey marked by continuous learning, skill acquisition, and professional growth. I had a solid foundation in research. I had contributed to studies that pushed for understanding of the world we live in. I had spent years listening and doing what the experts said. I was comfortable with data and driven by a curiosity to uncover new insights. My analytical skills were not just about crunching numbers. They were about interpreting data. They were about explaining what was complex. I had developed a knack for seeing people where they were and aligning what seemed to be complex challenges where others saw chaos. And this ability had been a cornerstone of my professional success. Coordinating patient care and research studies was another significant part of my professional journey. I had the privilege of working with diverse groups of talented individuals, fostering an environment where collaboration and innovation thrived. I advocated for patients at every step of the way while getting the job done. I understood the dynamics of group work, the importance of motivation, and the strategies needed to achieve collective goals. My approach was systematic and detail-oriented, ensuring that every aspect of the project was meticulously planned and executed. Furthermore, my ability to collaborate across diverse departments was something I prided myself on. I had worked with professionals from different backgrounds, each bringing their unique perspectives and expertise to the table. This cross-functional collaboration was not just about working together. It was about integrating our efforts to achieve a common goal. In healthcare, a field notorious for its silos, this skill is invaluable. Breaking down these silos and fostering a culture of collaboration was something I was passionate about. I believed that the best outcomes were achieved when different departments worked together seamlessly, sharing knowledge and resources. I had a proven track record of working with clinicians, administrators, and technical staff to achieve common objectives. My ability to bridge the gap between these groups was a key factor in our success. I understood the challenges each group faced and worked tirelessly to find solutions that benefited everyone. I understood the different languages they spoke, the varying priorities they held, and I knew how to find common ground. This ability to navigate the complexities of different professional cultures was something I had developed over years of experience. It was about more than just communication. It was about building trust and fostering mutual respect. These were not minor accomplishments. They were the building blocks of a capable healthcare career professional, ready to take on new challenges and contribute meaningfully to an organization's success and its mission. I had invested years in developing these skills, and I was confident in my ability to make a significant impact. Yet, the response, or lack thereof, to my applications for roles was baffling. Despite my extensive experience and the clear alignment of my skills with the job requirements, I found myself facing a wall of silence. It was as if my applications were disappearing into a void, never to be seen or acknowledged. It was as if these credentials, these carefully cultivated skills and experiences were invisible. I couldn't understand why my applications were being overlooked. I had meticulously tailored each resume and cover letter to match the job descriptions, highlighting the most relevant aspects of my background. The positions I targeted were ones where my background seemed to directly align with the stated requirements. I had done my homework, researching each company and understanding their needs. I was confident that I was a strong candidate for these roles. I would read the job descriptions and nod along, thinking, yes, I have done that. I can do that. I want to do that. Each role seemed like a perfect fit, and I was eager to bring my expertise to a new organization. I was ready to contribute, to make a difference, and to grow in my career. But the enthusiasm was met with a digital wall. My applications seemed to hit an invisible barrier, preventing them from reaching the decision makers. It was frustrating and disheartening, leaving me to wonder what more I could do to get noticed. It was a perplexing crossroad. My experience pointed one way, but the opportunities, or the gatekeepers to those opportunities, were firmly pointing another. I felt stuck, unable to move forward despite my best efforts. It was a challenging and confusing time, filled with self-doubt and uncertainty. The silence from these organizations was particularly disheartening. Each day, without a response, felt like a blow to my confidence. I began to question my worth and my abilities, wondering if I was truly as qualified as I believed. A rejection, even a generic one, at least provides a sense of closure. It allows you to move on, to adjust your approach, and to keep trying. But the complete absence of a response leaves you in a state of suspended animation, wondering if your carefully crafted application was lost, ignored, or simply deemed unworthy of even a cursory glance. But the complete absence of a response leaves you in a state of suspended animation, wondering if your carefully crafted application was lost, ignored, or simply deemed unworthy of even a cursory glance. This limbo was the hardest part, as it left me with no direction and no feedback to improve upon. This experience forced me to confront a difficult question. If my years of relevant experience weren't enough to even secure an interview for roles I was demonstrably qualified for, what exactly were these organizations looking for? It was a question that haunted me, making me reevaluate everything I thought I knew about the job market and my place in it. What were the new rules of engagement in this evolving job market? I began to delve deeper, researching trends and seeking advice from mentors and peers. I realized that the landscape had shifted, and I needed to adapt to these changes to succeed. A 2018 MIT study found that facial recognition algorithms misclassified Black women 35% of the time. This highlighted the biases present in the very technologies that were increasingly being used in hiring processes. It made me question how these biases might be affecting my own job search. The cumulative effect of these rejections, and especially the deafening silences, was more than just professional frustration. It was an emotional burden. Each unanswered application added a small weight to an increasingly heavy load. It's a peculiar kind of grief, mourning the loss of potential opportunities, of futures imagined within those roles. You invest time, energy, and hope into each application. You envision yourself contributing to that team, solving those problems, growing within that organization. When that vision is repeatedly met with nothingness, it starts to feel personal, even when you tell yourself it isn't. Doubt begins to creep in, insidious and pervasive. Am I good enough? Are my skills outdated? Did I make a mistake leaving my previous role? These questions swirl, creating a vortex of uncertainty that can be hard to escape. The confidence that was once a steady flame flickers, sometimes threatening to go out altogether. You start to second guess your resume, your cover letter, even the way you describe your own achievements. It's a draining process, this constant reevaluation, fueled by a lack of positive reinforcement from the very system you're trying to re-enter. The impact extends beyond the individual. It ripples outward, affecting one's sense of self and interactions with the world. It becomes harder to maintain a positive outlook, to speak with enthusiasm about your job search when there's little positive news to share. The daily routine of searching, tailoring, applying, and waiting becomes a monotonous cycle, often performed in isolation. This isolation can amplify the negative feelings, making the entire process feel even more daunting and overwhelming. The simple act of checking emails can become fraught with anxiety, a pendulum swing between faint hope and anticipated disappointment. It's a heavy cloak to wear, the sense of professional invisibility. You know what you are capable of, you have a history that proves it. Yet the current reality seems to deny that. This isn't just about finding a source of income. It's about finding a place where your talents are recognized and utilized, where you can feel a sense of purpose and contribution. When that is consistently denied, the weight becomes significant, pressing down on your spirit and making it increasingly difficult to maintain the resilience needed to keep pushing forward in the face of such persistent, impersonal discouragement. Even tech giants like Amazon have faced challenges with AI in hiring, They scrapped their internal AI hiring tool because it penalized resumes with the word women. A glimmer, a compromise, landing in the unexpected. Eventually, the relentless search yielded an offer. It was a moment of relief, certainly. The immediate pressure of unemployment, of an income stream cut off, was alleviated. In that sense, I was genuinely grateful. Not having a job at all, facing that complete uncertainty, was a far worse alternative. This new role represented stability, a return to a regular schedule, a place to go each day. It was a foothold, however small, back into the professional world. And for that, I acknowledged its importance, its necessity at that particular juncture in my life and career. However, the nature of the role itself was a stark contrast to my previous professional experiences and my aspirations for the future. I found myself in a major hospital, a reputable institution, but in a department I had never envisioned myself working in. It was entry level, a classification that felt jarring given my years of experience. The work was largely administrative, repetitive, and offered very little scope for the kind of strategic thinking or problem solving that I thrived on. It was, in essence, a job, not a career move, a means to an end rather than an end in itself. I learned a great deal in that role, I must admit. Every experience, even those that are not what we initially sought, can offer lessons. I gained insights into different aspects of hospital operations, observed new workflows, and interacted with a different set of colleagues. These were valuable takeaways, and I don't diminish them. Yet, despite these learnings, each shift felt heavy. There was an underlying sense of misalignment, a feeling that my skills were being underutilized, that my potential was being capped. It was the feeling of wearing shoes that were several sizes too small. This compromise, this acceptance of a role so far removed from my established career path, was a direct consequence of the impenetrable wall I had faced when applying for more suitable positions. It wasn't a choice made from a position of strength or preference, but rather one made out of necessity. It highlighted the harsh reality that sometimes, despite your qualifications and experience, the available options are far from ideal. It was a daily reminder of the career momentum I felt I had lost and the long road ahead to try and regain it. Companies like HireVue have used facial analysis and voice inflection scoring in hiring, a controversial practice recently dropped due to backlash. The persistent search, rebuilding, and reaching out. Accepting that entry-level position wasn't the end of my ambition. It was merely a pause, a temporary station. I didn't stop applying for roles that aligned more closely with my research background and my desire for intellectually stimulating work. The experience of hitting that wall had been bruising, but it hadn't extinguished the fire entirely. If anything, the daily routine of a job that didn't fully engage me served as a constant motivator to keep searching, to keep striving for something more, something that felt like a true fit for my abilities and passions in the healthcare field. Recognizing that my previous approach might not be sufficient in this new landscape, I embarked on a mission of self-improvement and strategic repositioning. I meticulously rebuilt my resume, scrutinizing every word, every bullet point, trying to anticipate what unseen filters might be looking for. I enrolled in new classes, seeking to acquire additional skills and refresh existing ones, hoping to add those crucial keywords that might unlock the next level. I dedicated time to picking up new competencies, particularly those that seemed to be in demand in the evolving healthcare technology space. Networking became a more focused effort. I reached out to former colleagues, attended virtual industry events, and tried to make new connections. I understood that in a challenging job market, personal connections could sometimes open doors that online applications alone could not. I showed up, both literally and figuratively, making myself visible in professional circles, sharing insights, and learning from others. It was about demonstrating continued engagement with my field, even if my current role didn't reflect my full capacity. I was determined to signal that I was still in the game, still eager to contribute at a higher level. And yet, despite all these renewed efforts, the revamped resume, the new skills, the focused networking, the persistent applications, the silence for research-focused jobs continued. Not a single callback materialized for the kind of work I was most passionate about, the areas where I felt I could make the most significant impact. It was a deeply perplexing and frustrating pattern. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, everything career advisors recommend, but the desired outcome remained elusive. The invisible barrier seemed to be firmly in place, deflecting even my most concerted efforts. A question forms, is it just me, or is the system changing? The continued silence from potential employers, especially for roles that seemed like a perfect match on paper, began to cultivate a persistent, nagging question within me. Initially, it's easy to internalize rejection. You wonder, what am I doing wrong? Is there something lacking in my experience? Am I not presenting myself effectively? These are natural introspective questions. However, as the months wore on and as I spoke to other professionals navigating similar job searches, a different kind of question started to take shape, one that looked outward rather than inward. Was this experience solely mine, a unique confluence of bad luck and personal shortcomings? Or was I encountering a systemic shift, a change in the very mechanics of how hiring decisions were being made? The sheer volume of applications I sent, the breadth of roles I applied for, and the consistent lack of meaningful engagement from so many organizations started to feel less like a series of isolated incidents and more like a pattern. A pattern that suggested something larger was at play, something beyond my individual control or the specific details of my resume. Friends and colleagues in various fields shared similar stories of frustration, tales of applications disappearing into black holes, of bizarrely irrelevant interview questions, or of being filtered out for reasons they couldn't comprehend. There was a growing sense that the hiring process itself was becoming more opaque, less human. The traditional methods of showcasing one's qualifications, a well-crafted resume, a compelling cover letter, a strong track record, seemed to be losing their efficacy in certain contexts. It felt as though we were all trying to navigate a new unmapped territory without a reliable compass. This shared sense of bewilderment led me to consider that perhaps it wasn't just me. Perhaps the rules of the game had changed without a clear announcement. If experienced, qualified individuals were struggling to even get a foot in the door for an initial conversation, then something fundamental about the hiring process itself might be undergoing a transformation. The gatekeepers were still there, but their methods, their criteria, and even their very nature seemed to be evolving in ways that were not immediately apparent to those of us on the outside, seeking entry. The invisible interviewer whispers of a new hiring protocol. As I delved deeper into this disconcerting experience, trying to understand the persistent barriers, I began to hear whispers. These weren't loud proclamations, but rather subtle mentions in articles, quiet conversations with tech-savvy colleagues, and emerging discussions in professional forums, whispers about new tools, new systems, new protocols being implemented in the hiring pipelines of many organizations, including those in the healthcare sector. These systems were designed for efficiency, for managing the high volume of applications that companies often receive in the digital age. The idea of an invisible interviewer started to take root in my mind. Not a person, necessarily, but a process, an algorithm, a layer of technology inserted between the applicant and the human recruiter. This digital gatekeeper could sift through thousands of resumes in minutes, looking for specific keywords, patterns, or data points that it had been programmed to identify as indicators of a good candidate. It could analyze, score, and rank applicants long before any human eyes ever reviewed their carefully submitted materials. The implications of such a system were profound and, frankly, a little chilling. This wasn't about a human resources professional quickly scanning a resume for relevant experience anymore. This was something different, something more automated and potentially more arbitrary. What if the keywords I had chosen, despite my best efforts to align them with job descriptions, weren't the exact keywords the algorithm was searching for? What if my years of experience were formatted in a way that the system couldn't parse correctly? What if the very platform I used to submit my application was incompatible with the screening software on the other end? These possibilities were unsettling. The notion that my candidacy could be dismissed by a machine without any human judgment or contextual understanding was a stark realization. It recontextualized the months of silence and the string of rejections. Perhaps it wasn't always a human being deciding I wasn't a fit. Perhaps, in many instances, my application never even reached a human decision maker. This thought didn't necessarily lessen the frustration, but it shifted its focus from a perceived personal failing to a concern about the fairness and efficacy of an increasingly automated hiring process that operated largely behind a veil of secrecy. Healthcare's conundrum, seeking humanity through automated filters. This emerging understanding of automated hiring systems felt particularly paradoxical when considering the healthcare industry. Healthcare, at its core, is a profoundly human endeavor. It's a field that ostensibly prioritizes qualities like empathy, compassion, critical thinking, and nuanced judgment. We look for clinicians who can connect with patients on a human level, researchers who can think creatively to solve complex health problems, and administrators who can manage sensitive situations with wisdom and care. These are not qualities easily reducible to keywords or data points on a resume. Yet the very system that proclaims its need for innovation and empathy seem to be increasingly reliant on automated tools to find the people who embody these traits. If hospitals and healthcare organizations were adopting these technologies to screen applicants, what did that mean for the selection process? How could an algorithm designed to parse text and match patterns accurately assess a candidate's capacity for empathy? How could it discern a researcher's innovative spark if the language used didn't perfectly align with its pre-programmed lexicon? This was healthcare's conundrum. The system says it wants people who can think outside the box, who can bring fresh perspectives, who can connect with diverse patient populations. But what if the automated filters are, by their very nature, designed to find people who fit neatly inside a predefined box? What if these AI-driven screeners inadvertently filter out individuals whose resumes reflect non-traditional career paths diverse experiences, or unique skill sets that don't conform to a standardized template. The risk, it seemed, was that the quest for efficiency might be inadvertently sacrificing the very human qualities healthcare so desperately needs. This concern became a central part of my reflection. If AI is increasingly involved in the initial stages of hiring within healthcare, who is truly getting past those digital gates? Are we selecting for conformity rather than creativity? Are we prioritizing easily quantifiable metrics over harder to measure, but equally crucial human attributes? The potential for a disconnect between the stated values of the healthcare industry and the actual outcomes of its AI-augmented hiring practices was a deeply troubling prospect, one that extended far beyond my personal job search saga. Now, let's take a moment to discuss some of the benefits of AI in hiring that are often overlooked. It's easy to focus on the potential pitfalls, but there are significant advantages that deserve attention as well. First, there's the speed and efficiency that AI brings to the table. This episode isn't medical advice or professional guidance, just some real talk about where healthcare and AI might be headed. Always consult with your own experts regarding your health or professional decisions. Also, I want to make it clear that I am not sponsored by any of the companies we'll discuss today. Automated systems can process thousands of applications in a fraction of the time it would take a human recruiter. This allows employers to quickly identify the most promising candidates and move them through the hiring process faster. For job seekers, this means less time waiting and more opportunities to engage with potential employers. Another important benefit is the reduction of human fatigue. Reviewing resumes and conducting initial screenings can be a monotonous and exhausting task for recruiters. AI can handle these repetitive tasks with consistent accuracy, freeing up human resources professionals to focus on more strategic and interpersonal aspects of the hiring process. AI also has the potential to anonymize the screening process. By stripping out identifying information such as names, ages, and genders, AI can help ensure that candidates are evaluated based solely on their skills and qualifications. This can lead to a more level playing field and help reduce unconscious bias in hiring decisions. However, it's crucial to note that these benefits are contingent on the AI being implemented correctly. Bias-free screening is achievable if the algorithms are designed and trained with diverse, representative data. When done right, AI can help create a more inclusive and equitable hiring process. In summary, while there are valid concerns about the use of AI in hiring, it's important to also recognize the significant benefits it can offer. Faster processing, reduced human fatigue, anonymized evaluations, and the potential for bias. Free screening are all advantages that can contribute to a more efficient and fair job market. Gap 7's Who Programs the Gatekeeper? As we delve deeper into the implications of AI in hiring, one question stands out. Who programs the gatekeeper? Who are the individuals behind the algorithms that decide our professional fates? It's essential to understand that AI systems don't operate in a vacuum. They are created, trained, and maintained by developers, human beings with their own biases, experiences, and perspectives. Gap 5's potential biases. The developers behind these algorithms play a critical role in shaping how AI systems function. Their choices, whether conscious or unconscious, can introduce biases that affect the hiring process. For instance, if the data used to train an AI model predominantly features successful candidates from a particular demographic, the AI may inadvertently favor similar profiles in the future. This can perpetuate existing inequalities and limit opportunities for underrepresented groups. Gap 5s. Transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability in AI programming are paramount. Job seekers and employers alike need to know how these systems make decisions. This means that developers should be open about the data sources they use, the criteria their algorithms prioritize, and the potential limitations of their models. Without this transparency, it becomes challenging to identify and correct biases, leading to a lack of trust in the system. Gap 5s. Ethical considerations. Ethical considerations must also be at the forefront of AI development. Developers should strive to create algorithms that are fair, unbiased, and representative of diverse populations. This requires continuous monitoring and updating of AI models to ensure they remain equitable and effective. By prioritizing ethical programming practices, we can work towards a hiring process that truly values human potential. Gap 5s. The role of stakeholders. It's not just the developers who have a role to play. Employers, policymakers, and job seekers must also advocate for greater transparency and accountability in AI hiring systems. By demanding that these systems are designed and implemented responsibly, we can help create a job market that is fairer and more inclusive for everyone. Gap 5s. Conclusion. In summary, the question of who programs the gatekeeper is crucial in understanding the broader implications of AI in hiring. The developers behind these algorithms have a significant impact on the fairness and effectiveness of the hiring process. By promoting transparency, accountability, and ethical considerations, we can ensure that AI serves as a tool for enhancing rather than hindering human potential in the job market. The human element erased. Our central inquiry into AI's hiring role. My personal journey through the labyrinth of modern job hunting, with its frustrating silences and unexpected detours, eventually crystallized into a broader, more urgent question. Have you ever been ghosted after applying for a job online? Do you think AI made that call? The process of applying for jobs has become increasingly impersonal, with automated systems often serving as the first point of contact between applicants and potential employers. Imagine your dream job being blocked by a bot because you used Times New Roman. That's not a dystopia, it's real life. This shift has led to a growing sense of alienation among job seekers who feel like they're being judged by faceless algorithms rather than human beings. It's a question that I believe resonates with countless others who have felt invisible, overlooked, or unfairly judged in their pursuit of meaningful work. The rise of AI in hiring processes has introduced a new layer of complexity to the job market, one that many people are struggling to navigate. The feeling of being reduced to a set of data points, rather than being seen as a whole person with unique skills and experiences, is a common frustration. It's a question that strikes at the heart of how we value human potential in an increasingly automated world. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they are being tasked with making decisions that were once the domain of human judgment. Fun fact: some AI tools score candidates higher for using aggressive words like execute versus collaboration. This shift raises important questions about the criteria these systems use to evaluate candidates and whether they can truly capture the nuances of human potential. If artificial intelligence is increasingly doing the hiring, making those critical first pass decisions, then who ultimately is really getting hired? Are we entrusting our future workforce to algorithms that may not fully understand the complexities of human experience? The implications of this shift are profound, affecting not only individual job seekers, but also the broader dynamics of the labor market. And just as importantly, who is being left behind? The use of AI in hiring has the potential to exacerbate existing inequalities, as these systems may inadvertently favor certain groups over others. This raises critical ethical questions about fairness and inclusivity in the job market. This episode, this exploration, is for everyone who has ever felt that sting of rejection without reason, that sense of being filtered out by a system they don't understand. It's for those who have spent hours crafting the perfect resume, only to receive an automated rejection email minutes after submitting their application. The opacity of these systems can be deeply frustrating, leaving job seekers feeling powerless and confused. It's especially for those in fields like healthcare, where the human touch is paramount, yet where technology is rapidly reshaping every process, including how its workforce is built. In such fields, the stakes are particularly high, as the quality of care provided to patients can be directly impacted by the hiring decisions made by AI systems. The system often speaks of wanting innovation, empathy, and diverse talent. These are qualities that are essential for driving progress and fostering a positive work environment. However, there is a growing concern that the tools being used to identify these qualities may not be up to the task. But if the initial screening mechanisms are biased, flawed, or simply misaligned with these goals, then are we not, in fact, inadvertently screening out the very people who could bring those qualities to the forefront? The reliance on AI in hiring processes has the potential to create a disconnect between the qualities employers say they value and the criteria used to evaluate candidates. The core of our inquiry today revolves around this tension. We seek to understand how AI is being used in hiring processes, the impact it is having on job seekers, and the broader implications for the labor market. This is a complex and multifaceted issue, one that requires careful consideration and thoughtful analysis. AI-powered hiring tools promise efficiency, objectivity, and the ability to handle vast numbers of applicants. These are significant advantages, particularly in a job market where employers are often inundated with applications. The ability to quickly and accurately identify the most promising candidates can save time and resources. Proponents argue they can reduce human bias and streamline the recruitment process. By removing the subjective element of human judgment, AI systems have the potential to create a more level playing field for all candidates. This is a compelling argument, particularly in light of the well-documented biases that can affect human decision-making. However, these claims demand scrutiny. The reality is that AI systems are only as good as the data they are trained on. And if that data is biased, the systems will be too. This is a critical point, as it highlights the importance of ensuring that the data used to train AI models is representative and free from bias. What happens when the data used to train these AI models itself reflects historical biases? This is a significant concern, as it means that AI systems could perpetuate and even exacerbate existing inequalities. The use of biased data can lead to biased outcomes, which can have serious implications for job seekers and employers alike. What are the ethical implications when an algorithm, devoid of human understanding and context, makes decisions that profoundly impact individuals' livelihoods and career trajectories? This is a question that goes to the heart of the debate about the use of AI in hiring. The decisions made by these systems can have a lasting impact on people's lives, and it is essential that they are made in a fair and transparent manner. What does it mean for human resources when the human element is systematically minimized or removed from crucial early stages? The use of AI in hiring has the potential to fundamentally change the role of HR professionals, shifting their focus from evaluating candidates to managing the technology that does so. This raises important questions about the future of the HR profession and the skills that will be required in this new landscape. So, we embark on this discussion not to vilify technology, but to understand its impact and to advocate for a more transparent, equitable, and ultimately more human approach. The goal is to ensure that the use of AI in hiring is guided by principles of fairness and inclusivity, and that it serves to enhance rather than undermine the human element. The question is not simply whether AI is a friend or a foe in the hiring process. The reality is that AI is a tool, and like any tool, its impact depends on how it is used. The challenge is to ensure that it is used in a way that benefits all stakeholders, from job seekers to employers to society as a whole. The reality is likely more complex. The use of AI in hiring is a multifaceted issue, with potential benefits and drawbacks that need to be carefully weighed. It is essential to approach this issue with a nuanced understanding, recognizing both the potential of AI to improve hiring process and the risks it poses. Instead, we must ask, how can we harness the power of these tools responsibly? This is the central question that we must address. The goal is to ensure that AI is used in a way that enhances human judgment and supports fair and inclusive hiring practices. How can we ensure they augment human judgment rather than replace it? The key is to strike a balance between the efficiency and objectivity of AI and the empathy and understanding of human judgment. This requires a thoughtful and deliberate approach to the design and implementation of AI systems. And how can we, as job seekers, as employers, and as a society, ensure that the future of work remains accessible and fair for everyone, not just those who fit an algorithm's narrow definition of suitability? This is the ultimate goal: to create a job market that is inclusive and fair, where everyone has the opportunity to succeed based on their skills and potential, rather than being limited by the biases of an algorithm. You need to watch this if you struggle with getting your resume past AI systems. In this segment, we will discuss tips for job seekers on how to beat the bot. First, let's talk about keyword strategies. It's crucial to use the right keywords that match the job description. When you read through a job posting, pay close attention to the specific terms and phrases used. These are the keywords that AI systems are programmed to look for. Incorporate them naturally into your resume and cover letter to increase your chances of passing the initial screening. Next, formatting your resume in a way that is easily readable by AI systems is essential. Avoid using complex layouts, graphics, or unusual fonts. Stick to a clean, simple format with clear headings and bullet points. This makes it easier for AI systems to parse and understand your information. Finally, timing your application can also play a significant role. Applying early in the job posting period can increase your chances of getting noticed. Many AI systems prioritize early applicants, so don't wait until the last minute to submit your application. By following these tips, you can improve your chances of making it through the initial AI screening and getting your resume in front of a human recruiter. Remember, while AI systems are becoming more prevalent in the hiring process, they are just one part of the equation. Your unique skills, experiences, and personality still matter, and with the right strategies, you can make sure they shine through. Utilize resources like JobScan and free resume scanners to optimize your resume for AI systems. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the evolving role of AI in hiring and what it means for job seekers everywhere.